What's up, guys? Let's go ahead and compare the 14 Pro Max to the Galaxy S23 Ultra. These are two beasts of a flagship phones. You honestly can't go wrong with either of them. Let's go ahead and talk about, just the overall differences of these two phones here. So they're both, $1,000 plus phones, very expensive phones here. And I want to kick it off with the design of these two phones. Be sure to let me know which design do you like this year. So the S23 Ultra has a more boxier shape than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Is also a little bit taller. They're both kind of heavy phones as well too. They're both glass and metal phones. They both have the matte finish on here, so you don't get fingerprints, which is awesome. And then they have these massive cameras on here as well too. You can see, I think, just two beautiful phones here. You will notice a bit of a difference. The S23 Ultra a little bit more boxy. The iPhone is also, it's kind of boxy, but as you can see, it's a little bit more rounded as well. Honestly, like I said, this year they're both actually kind of uncomfortable to hold, in my opinion. The iPhone, again, is super sharp. It's not like the iPhone 11 where it was like just not as boxy on the hand. So this kind of cuts in, this kind of cuts in. But yeah, so overall the designs I think are really beautiful. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant, and they just look great, man. I really like them. Let's talk about the displays on both of these devices here. So the S23 Ultra has the dynamic AMOLED display. It's 120 Hz HDR10+. It gets a max of 1750 nits. It's 6.8 inches, 1440p, 540 ppi. The iPhone does have the LTPO XDR OLED Retina display, and this one actually gets up to 2000 nits peak brightness, and that's the max brightness, like in direct sunlight, stuff like that. This one is a 1290 by 2796 resolution, 460 for the PPI. So basically, what you will notice here with the displays off the bat is that you do have a much smaller punch hole, which I prefer on the S23 Ultra. You do have Apple's very cool dynamic island. It does have like a function to it, unlike the punch hole. It basically is like a little multitasking tray, in my opinion. And one thing you will notice is that the iPhone is completely flat, so if you just love flat phones, you'll really like this phone. The Galaxy, it is curved, but it's not really as curved as it used to be like last year. It's a very minor curve this year, so not a dramatic curve. Basically two beautiful displays. I still like the S23 Ultra's display just for watching content. One good thing about the boxy screen is that it kind of reminds you of a TV, right? And I just think it's just better for watching content. Not only that, but the punch hole is not as intrusive as the notch, right? So I definitely like the Galaxy's display here. Like I said, they're both 120 Hz. They're both very smooth. I think the only advantage that the iPhone might have is if you actually really like the dynamic island thing. So you can see, like, I'll show you just in case you haven't seen it. But you start playing a song, and you can see it pops up there, and it does it for a lot of applications like the clock, stuff like that. Other than that, man, I think the S23 Ultra just has a better display here. Alright guys, let's talk about the specs a little bit here. So with the S23 Ultra, we do have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor for Galaxy, and then we also are running Android 13 on here as well, when you are 5.1. And then we also have 512 gigabytes and 12 gigs of RAM on this model, but the base model is 256, 8 gigs of RAM. The 14 Pro does have the Apple A16 chip, also 128 gigs and 6 gigs of RAM on the base model, so the Galaxy is much better when it comes to just base model storage. So basically here, the iPhone definitely does a really good job. You can see with the benchmarks, it beats out the Galaxy still here. Surprisingly, the S23 has a better GPU this year. Now, when it comes to overall performance, honestly, the phones pretty much feel the same in terms of daily use. You won't really be able to tell a difference in terms of performance here. So they both feel extremely fast. So like the days of like one iPhone being more faster than Android, it's just not there, honestly. They're pretty much somewhat on par with each other. Now, when it comes to the gaming experience, like I said, the Galaxy does an excellent job this year. It's very fast, and it actually remains somewhat cool to the touch during long periods of gaming. It doesn't get anywhere near as hot as, you know, the previous flagships. Same with the iPhone. The iPhone has always been pretty good, but the iPhone can get a little bit hot as well too when gaming for long periods of time. Something that I definitely noticed here. Seems that optimization for the 14 Pro Max is just better. At least for PUBG, you can play this at 90 frames, but we didn't even get the 90 frames for the S22 Ultra, and this one has not gotten it as well. So it hasn't gotten the optimization, even though it can play it at 90 frames. But if you were deciding because of the gaming experience, honestly, both of these phones are just pretty good for gaming. And honestly, when it comes to just like the heat, it feels like the iPhone definitely heats up a little bit more than the Galaxy. Let's check out the speakers side by side, max volume. So the iPhone definitely has still louder bass than the S23 Ultra, but I do prefer the overall sound of the Galaxy. It just sounds a little bit more clean on the S23. Yeah, definitely louder bass, but the overall sound does sound a little bit cleaner to me. It really is. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because they're both very loud. They both sound great, and they're both kind of close this year. Now, last year, the S22 Ultra was terrible. This year, they're more on par with each other, which is something that I really like here. Let's talk about some more additional features. So this is something that I've always really liked about just Android phones in particular. So you do have Face ID as well, or, you know, Face Unlock. But you also can take advantage of the fingerprint sensor, which the iPhone cannot do. It only has one biometric method, which is the Face ID here, which works great and it's definitely super secure and everything. But honestly, you know, I would love to see Touch ID in the power button or a fingerprint scanner or something. I just like having two methods. But yeah, I definitely prefer that, the biometrics on the Galaxy here. Also, with the additional features here, you do have an S Pen. This is a very awesome tool, not for just writing down notes. I use it as like a grocery list when I'm out so I don't forget anything. But also, I've seen people on YouTube do digital artwork with this, and it's extremely accurate for that. So, you know, if just a digital artist, this is very useful for you. Also, Samsung has a ton of features with One UI that you could take advantage of the pen. So that's something that I really like as well too. So the S Pen definitely extremely handy for content creation. You can be at a distance and take a photo and just press the button. And you can do that with video as well too. So it's actually pretty handy. I really do like it. So I took some side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna, you know, let you guys see the specs first. But the S23 Ultra has a 200 megapixel camera. It has a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto that does 10x optical zoom. And then it also has another telephoto lens that does 3x, and that's a 10 megapixel, 12 megapixel ultra wide, shoots in 8K 30 this year, 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. And then it also can go up to 100 times zoom, so you can take pictures of the moon. And it just takes awesome zoom shots, guys. Especially the 10 times zoom is pretty incredible. It's very sharp. You can get a lot of detail with that. The iPhone 14 Pro has obviously a great camera system as well too, but it's not as spec'd out with like the zoom. It only has 3 times optical zoom, and then it can do, you know, the digital zoom past the 3, which is not a lot compared to the S23 Ultra here. It's just going to take way better zoom shots. Now, the iPhone does have a new 48 megapixel camera here, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and again 3x, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then it also has 4K video up to 60 frames, and then a 12 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 60 as well too. They both take some awesome photos. Be sure to let me know what you guys think of the image quality. Alright guys, here's just a little test footage of the S23 Ultra here for the video. The 3x, 10x. As you see, just look at the detail. It's really nice. Very impressive. And we do have a 0.6 on here as well too. So just awesome image quality here, man. Alright guys, here is the iPhone's video here. Here's our 2x, 3x. Then we have a 0.5. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, so the battery life experience has been probably the most fascinating thing this year. So the Galaxy has really stepped it up in this department. It has a 5,000 milliamp battery, 45 watt charging, wireless and reverse wireless charging. The iPhone does have a 4,323 milliamp battery, and then it has 15 watt wireless charging, and then the MagSafe wireless charging. The Galaxy does charge faster than the Pro Max, but also guys, the battery life, screen on time this year is insane on the Galaxy. It takes like 2 days for me to kill this phone. The 14 Pro Max also is a beast when it comes to battery life. It is an excellent phone as well. And again, for me, a light user, around 2 days as well too. But last year, the S22 Ultra was nowhere near, in my opinion, as good as the 14 Pro Max. So the battery situation has just improved drastically. Like I said, this does have the reverse wireless charging, which I think is always really helpful, something that again the iPhone does not have here. So you're getting an excellent battery experience honestly on both of these phones. Honestly, they last all day. Alright, so basically be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys in the next one.